A preliminary hearing in Grand Forks District Court on this Friday morning for Samantha Wilson. She's the woman charged with murdering 15-year-old Jonah Borth in Northwood last January by shooting him. The hearing was to determine if there was enough evidence in the case to bring the matter to trial. The trial will move ahead. Next court appearance scheduled for December. She entered not guilty pleas. For background on this case, here's our story from last January. 32-year-old Samantha Wilson of Northwood has now been charged with murder in the Sunday night shooting death of 15-year-old Jonah Borth, a Grand Forks Red River High School student.
Northwood Ambulance and Fire, can you respond to the 212 Lander Avenue for a subject who's been shot in the upper right chest area? Do have a pulse, but there is some agonal breathing. We are starting CPR. It looks like they have stopped breathing at this time.
Now, court documents don't spell out the relationship between Wilson and the victim. However, a couple of acquaintances tell me the victim's father was a friend of Wilson's. Here's what court documents say happened inside this home. Reading from the criminal complaint, quote, on January 26, 2020, at approximately 9:38 p.m., deputies with the Grand Forks County Sheriff's Department responded for a report of a male subject with a gunshot wound. Law enforcement and emergency medical personnel attempted life-saving measures on the male subject, which were ultimately unsuccessful. The male was pronounced dead at the scene. Through the investigation, it was learned that Samantha Wilson utilized a 9mm pistol to fire at least one round, which struck the male victim in the area of the chest and throat. Samantha Wilson did commit the crime of murder by causing the death of another human being under circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to the value of human life by pointing a loaded firearm at another human being and pulling the trigger. The action resulted in the death of a juvenile male identified as JB. As iNewZ has learned, Jonah Borth. Back to the criminal complaint. Samantha Wilson was placed under arrest and transported to the Grand Forks County Correctional Center. Prior to arriving at the correctional center, Samantha Wilson became uncooperative and began banging her head on the windows and cage of the sheriff's office patrol vehicle. When personnel attempted to take custody of Samantha Wilson, she intentionally spit blood onto at least one correctional officer. Samantha Wilson did commit the crime of contact by bodily fluids by causing blood and saliva to come in contact with at least one correctional officer. Again, that was from the criminal complaint, and as you heard, it does not speak to any possible motive in this case. However, Samantha Wilson has now been charged with a Class AA felony of murder, which carries a maximum sentence of life in prison plus a felony charge of contact by bodily fluids. Again, Samantha Wilson pleads not guilty to charges at a preliminary hearing to determine if there is enough evidence to bring the matter to trial. The case moves forward with her next court appearance scheduled in December. I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNewZ.TV.